Kia ora te iwi and welcome to The Chew. Coming at you from Te Kirikiri Frankton here in Queenstown. Ko Aratown Dad TNA. And yes, once again, we have The Chew political commentator with me today, Alexa Forbes. Kia ora.
Kia ora, kia ora. No mai haere mai ki Kirikiri.
Yes, thank you. We're at your home here. Thank you for inviting me. And now today, we're another political chat. This one is going to be, might get into a little bit of a rabbit hole, but let's see if we can summarise the subject. We're going to talk about some of the tax policies that are coming out from, in particular, Labour, the Greens and Opportunities Party.
Yes, we have a problem in New Zealand in that income is taxed highly and capital's not taxed very much. Yeah. And so three parties are trying to change that with different tax proposals.
Right.
Labour's is a capital gains tax, which is okay, it's pretty similar to the Australian one. Greens are going for a wealth tax that hits just a very narrow portion of the population at the top and exempts the family home, and then the Opportunities Party have got a much broader based land tax, which is largely offset by a UBI, a citizen's income.
Yep.
So those are the three proposals
right
on the cards at the moment.
So just to clarify, as far as we know, at least right now, we're a little way away from the election, but from what we can tell, neither National, the Act, or New Zealand First have any kind of tax changes in mind for
not that we've seen, but then again it wouldn't fit their neoliberal model, where they believe that people that are building capital businesses, capital intensive business, will actually, their money will trickle down through the economy, which of course is exactly what we haven't seen. And we have a problem where the rich have got richer and richer and the poor have got poorer and poorer. And the other three parties are looking at, and I hesitate to call them parties of the left because the Opportunities Party does not describe itself that way. In fact, it absolutely says it's not. So, but they have got these different ways of looking at tax and trying to close this unequal, unfair tax model that we have.
Alrighty, so let's get cracking with the comparisons, shall we?
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. So we've got Labour, their capital gains tax. So that realises gain. So when you sell an investment property, you pay it. And that's a 28% flat tax, which actually fits with the corporate taxes. Right. Family homes exempt. It's taxed only on the sale, so it's only when it's realised, and it only captures property investors, so it's a very small, narrow base. Right. Yes, narrow by design. They reckon it'll bring in about $700 million on average a year, rising to $1.3 billion by 2030. And they're going to ring-fence the income for free GP visits, maternity scans, cervical screening. So that's theirs. Greens, wealth and inheritance. So you have a property worth more than $10 million, you will pay 2.5% of that a year. So that's just unrealised. That goes onto your tax bill straight away. And there's an inheritance tax as well, which is 33%, very high in inheritance tax.
What is an inheritance tax? Is that only when someone dies and passes things on to their children?
So you get to pay 33% of that back to the government if you get something. We used to have inheritance taxes in New Zealand up until about 1970, somewhere around there, and they got taken out. Mostly family farms provide a real problem for anyone trying to tax anything, because people's wealth is tied up in their homes and their family farms, so they become problematic.
Right.
Okay, the Opportunities Party, this is a land value tax, so it's the unimproved land value. Now that term only makes sense if you get a rates bill that has that. So that means the value of the land, not the value of what's sitting on it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so the rate would be, if you're in urban land, it's 1.75%.
Yep.
And if you're in rural land, farmland, it's 0.5%. And it's taxed annually whether or not it's sold. So it's based on the valuation. And so that catches pretty much every landowner and every ordinary homeowner.
Yeah.
It's deferral. So people, wealthy people who own a big asset like a home in Queenstown, but they don't have much cash flow, they don't have much money coming through, they can defer it, but they cannot get any exemption. Same with farmers, they can defer it, and the deferment works as when you sell it or when you die, that's when you pay it.
Right.
That's for farmers and superannuitants. And they reckon that'll bring in 24 billion a year.
24 billion a year?
Yes, and that will fund a citizen's income of 19,400 per adult.
Right.
Yeah, so the Greens one brings in 15.8 billion over 4 years, and in the wealth tax, and 4.1 billion in the inheritance tax. So the Greens and the opportunities ones bring in a lot more money.
Yeah.
The Labour one isn't so much money, but when we did our international comparisons, we saw, Corey, that the Labour one's very similar to the Australian. Really doesn't bring in very much.
Right.
But it's likely to stick. People aren't going to care too much, and they'll just do it, and it's likely to stick. But it's probably not going to bring in much.
Too much.
It's only on investment property, and investment property is falling in value, so their values might not be that great, because maybe over time it'll do. And in Australia they have it, and it brings in about 47 billion a year in Australia. But the durability of it, that means if it's likely to stick and stay in, not be repealed by the next government, is quite high. So that's where the Labour one has that big advantage.
So durability is pretty much the public, whether or not the public is against it or not, and whether or not governments will say, this is deeply politically unpopular, we need to get rid of it.
Yeah, will the next government keep it or not? So the Labour one, the durability is really good, and they've ring-fenced their stuff. Oh, we talked about that. That's all good. So the Greens wealth tax, we've got 2 case studies here, one in Switzerland and one in France. Now the Swiss one has been durable and it's still going. The French one has been repealed. So that's really got to be careful there. So its durability signal is quite mixed, but because the more narrow it gets, i.e. the fewer people it tries to hold in it, that's the more likely it is to be repealed. I know that sounds weird, but that's been the European experience. I'm not talking about. I'm not in a position. I don't know enough about tax or accounting to understand exactly why. But we know from the 17 European companies that did this, only 14 have repealed. Only 3 are still there, and Switzerland's one. And Switzerland's is lasting well because it's a low rate. And it's designed, and it's quite a narrow base, but it's more broad based than the other European ones. More people are caught, and they're caught at a very low rate of just 1%.
Right.
So that one, people kind of live with it.
Right.
So so that one's a mixed one. The Greens, the counter one for Greens, the counter example we used was Norway, and theirs has been really quite tricky. They've had a lot of their people, they had a lot of capital flight. That is, people, the very wealthy people, simply leaving and taking their capital with them. Norway, though, to counter this, is now thinking of an exit tax. So the day you leave, that's fine, but everything you own is due, your capital gains is due on the day that you leave. So that's what they're working on now.
I like that. That sounds good.
But it hasn't worked yet, they're having a go at that.
So those are that's the evidence that we've seen for...
That's right, for the other countries. So I'm not judging these, I'm just saying what we're seeing.
Yeah, we're just talking about what experiences are in other parts of the world for people who have tried to implement these. So that was so Labour pretty much aligns, Labour's policy pretty much aligns with what Australia is doing.
Yep.
And it's probably easier to implement, i.e. the durability is good, and it's likely to stick.
It's just not going to close any gap.
Yeah,
there's nothing ambitious about that policy. You're not going to suddenly close that wealth gap with that policy.
Yeah, right. But
it's only
we'll
a
get
little
a couple of doctor visits.
Yeah, right.
So then we've got the Greens one that you've just discussed. There's a lot going on in there, but you've cited at least 3 different countries who have done similar things.
Yes,
Switzerland,
Norway, France, and Sweden, and Switzerland.
Yeah.
Sweden and France have completely repealed theirs. Norway's having another go at theirs.
Yeah.
And the Switzerland one works well.
Right.
It's a relatively broad base, so quite a lot of wealthy people are caught, but they pay a very low tax, so they grumble and get on with it.
Right.
Now, the opportunities one's interesting.
Yeah.
So Estonia, it's where they have pretty much the same thing, almost exactly the same sort of thing, and it survives, but probably mostly because 90% of their people own and occupy their own homes. So this seems
90%.
Yes.
Wow, that's a
or
huge
more than
number.
actually, and there's no exemptions. Even public institutions are taxed. So everybody is hit. So all, it's
Is this a land tax? So they get hit with
land
a land
tax.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
Absolutely everybody.
Right.
And it's totally normalised.
Right.
So it has a really high durability. But here, the cautionary one that I looked at, the one where it hasn't worked, was Denmark. And there they had a century of this sort of tax, of cross-party consensus on it, and it ended when people who were asset-rich, farmers, and cash-poor and retirees, they started feeling the tax directly as other things in the economy changed.
Right.
And that has broken the Danish consensus, and that's likely to go, or has gone. Now it hasn't worked. So there's been low durability in that one. So I think they all need to go back and do some more work, these parties, and look at how they are going to overcome those issues. Labour's got to do a better job.
Yeah.
Greens have got to figure out how to make this stick.
Yeah.
And so has the Opportunity Party.
So now, we had a bit of a chat about this beforehand, and one
Sure
thing,
did.
yeah, and one thing. So I'm a big fan of the Opportunities Party. I have been for a long time. One thing that frustrates me about the conversation about the Opportunities Party's position is people only focus on the land tax, but Opportunities Party's position is there's two sides to it. Yes, there is a land tax, but there's also a UBI to balance the pain that people might feel from being taxed if they're asset rich but cash poor, i.e., farmers, etc. So there's a part of the equation that never gets mentioned, and it's the UBI.
It's a very interesting part of the equation too, because when you look at it, and I don't know if I can remember these figures exactly, and to find them now will take me 10 minutes, which we haven't got.
Sure.
But I think it was something like 70% of New Zealanders will actually come out in benefit
70.
on
Yes.
top.
Yes.
And about 20% end up kind of about
Neutral.
the same,
Yeah.
and 10% will end up paying more. And the only people that this really doesn't work for, apart from the very wealthy, who in my view should be paying anyway, but the only people it really is difficult for are farmers who don't have high cash flow. Some farmers do, not all farmers, but the farmers that don't have high cash flow but they're asset rich, and the retiree that lives in Tauranga or Queenstown or Auckland that has an expensive house but not much money coming in. And we haven't actually been able to fully find out yet whether the Opportunities Party is going to pay that UBI, that citizens' income, on top of the superannuation. Their policy paper says that they're not. It says that they won't get any less than they're getting now, but they won't get the double piece.
Right.
And I suspect that might be somewhere where the problem is. If they did get that, you might solve that superannuitant problem. And superannuitants, I think, generally want to be able to pass their property on to their children.
Yeah.
And if they can't, because that tax if they've deferred the tax on it, that means they have to pay it when they die or when they try and pass the house on. And in doing that, they will subject their son or daughter or family to that large tax, in which case they may have to sell that property. Mm-hmm. Interesting how this would impact on Maori land too, Corey. We haven't talked about that.
I believe Maori land is exempt.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yep. I haven't looked that far into it.
It is, yeah.
So I think they've got a little bit more work to do on that, but it's really promising, and I'm with you on that. And something that helps 70% of the people, it's worth figuring out the 20% that are going to be actually hurt, and figuring out something to make sure they're not.
The 10%.
To make this work. Because the 10% we definitely want them paying.
Yeah. Yeah, but also bearing in mind, and I'm sorry to really anchor myself directly on the opportunity side, but even if this tax is owed, it can be deferred, right? This is the whole point about it doesn't mean you have to pay the tax now. You can keep deferring it until the day you die. But then that's when the tax comes. Well, that's when the payments are expected. Right?
That's right, and at that point it actually works as an inheritance tax, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's a clean model.
Yeah.
I like the cleanliness of this. I like the clear pieces,
yeah.
and it's broad based. Means it's pretty simple to apply.
Yeah.
All of the other models are I actually know the Labour one's pretty simple too,
yeah,
but
pretty simple.
The Greens one is pretty hard to
it's
apply.
Complicated.
But it's probably a better system.
Yeah.
But if it's complicated to put in place, is it a better system? Maybe not.
Well, the durability becomes a problem.
The durability is a real problem, and I think the durability with the Opportunity Party one is a real problem if they don't solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, if they don't join those messages together, right? If we stop people trying to put it forth as just a land tax, but if you bring it into the citizens' income, you bring both of those together, I think you've got a better chance of getting a message that resonates.
Absolutely, and I think that would, and I just don't think it would be that difficult to solve it for that 20% of people who are getting hurt that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That would be my view on that, and I don't have a view on which of these is the best. The only view that I actually really hold is that the Labour one, not enough. Get your thinking caps back on, guys, and do something better.
I know. They don't have Labour don't seem to have the political will to really attack these problems. They've been sitting on capital gains tax forever. You come out with Jacinda came out. I'm a fan of Jacinda, but she did come out and say they were going to attack childhood poverty or whatever it was.
Child poverty.
Yeah, and has anything been done?
No,
Did
not a
anything
thing.
tangible happen? So,
I just wanted to point out here why taxing capital in New Zealand is so hard, and the reason is that most of New Zealand's capital sits in the family home.
Yeah,
and that starts getting really tricky because people have some very strong feelings about their home.
So, what I understand is other countries have an inheritance tax, right?
Some.
It's quite common in other countries to have an inheritance tax. I think one of the problems we have in this country is our behaviour is so aligned to how we've always had it. But if we look to other countries and what they've done to address these problems, we find that other countries already have inheritance taxes. So this is not going to be something that's completely different to what's going on.
This is where I like the Greens because they have a more complex set of taxes into one bunch of taxes. But if its durability is low, then it's pointless.
Yeah,
if the Opportunity can get its durability high, I'd be much happier with it.
Yeah.
But I think that this fact that the largest store of household capital in our country is in our home makes the exemption that Labour has brought in makes it, well, it's politically unavoidable. I know that's why they've done it, but it's really self-limiting fiscally.
Yeah.
They can't get the money from that when they carve that out. Australia's equivalent carve out alone foregoes about $47 billion a year. So any policy that wants to be popular in New Zealand ends up excluding the asset that matters most, and therefore we don't get anywhere. So we do need to take these policies and work them out and get somewhere with them.
Right. Now, just before we wrap up, so hopefully that becomes quite clear. We've got three clear policy approaches that we've chatted about today. Labour with a capital gains tax, the Greens with a comprehensive list of taxes that pretty much are targeted towards the wealthy.
Wealth and inheritance, yeah.
Yep. And the third one is the Opportunities Party, which is an attempt to do a broad-based taxation where, we're not targeting any one demographic with the balance of using the citizens' income to offset anyone that gets hurt significantly from the land tax. So there's hopefully I think we did a good job in simplifying it.
I think we have, because it's really complicated.
It is really complicated.
And hopefully people understand that. I'm going to write a blog to go with this as well, like I did with the other one, so that if people want to look at it in a bit more detail.
Yes.
Now that we've done all the research, we might as well
Yeah.
Push it out there for people to understand.
So, and before we wrap up, I just want to get your thoughts on, so we're obviously looking at people who see a problem with inequality, I guess, and then looking at what we can do to address it. Does that by default tell you that neither National, ACT or New Zealand First see inequality as a real issue?
Absolutely, it tells me that.
Right.
Just full stop. They are not concerned about the inequity in our tax system, the inequities in our social system that are a result of the inequities in the tax system.
Right.
They've got no plans to do anything about it as far as I can tell.
Yeah. So it's the classic, I guess, unfortunately I watch a little bit of American politics at the moment, and there's some
Jeez, that's a hiding to nothing, isn't it?
I know. I mean, it's more for amusement than anything. So I did get fired up about the whole Iran war and stuff, because that's had a direct impact on us. But usually I'm like, yeah, fill your boots, America, but let me watch, with my popcorn. But something that comes out of it from the right wing is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. This is the sort of sentiment that the right in America has, and I think it's sort of permeated to New Zealand, right? It's that if there is no inequality, you're just not working hard enough, right? Yeah, stop being lazy, go out there and get a job. If you don't like your job, go and get a better job. It's all this really simplistic way of approaching what they think is wrong with what is the cause of inequality, and it's basically you're lazy.
It's a focus on an individual, and as I've come to know, that there is no such thing as just an individual. We are all we're all interrelated in complex systems, complex webs of relationships with nature, with our communities, with our families, with everything. And the best societies hold everybody.
Yeah.
No matter who they are, how they are, or what they are, and they hold them. And it's not about equality of outcome, which Bootstraps is all about.
Yeah.
It's about equality of inputs and possibility and all of those sorts of things.
Quality of life, trying to give everybody a good quality
and
of life.
Opportunity, so that people can actually do things. But it's, no, I totally think and completely opposite to that. Individualism takes us in the wrong direction. Collectivism takes us in the right direction, in my view. Connection, community, hapori, people working together, whānau.
Well, we're 100% in agreement with that. So thank you so much. We'll wrap up this episode there. Hopefully we did enough there to explain the policy positions of those three parties, and hopefully we simplified it for you. If you like that, can you please put us a like on this video? Can you also please subscribe to the channel? Be great if you can add the subscription as well. Subscriptions are going up, but they can always go up even higher. And remember, after you've subscribed to the channel, we'll see you next time on The Chew. Mā te wā.
Mā te wā.